a city of brilliance and hardship. 17th century Paris wavered between splendor and collapse. Cramped streets stank of muck, ash, and scent. Trading posts thundered while church chimes signaled trouble. Coaches rattled past beggars and nobles together, the Seine carrying both business and vice. Behind closed shutters, bishops plotted and writers whispered revolt. Paris was radiant, unpredictable, and starving. A city balanced on the brink of change. Welcome to Paris in the 17th century. On Ile de la Cité, Paris felt crude and restless. The low, swampy island lay scattered with lumber yards and storage buildings, its muddy shores packed with barges offloading wheat and firewood. Ile de la Cité was pure work and river grime. At Port Saint-Denis, victory encountered the city's grit. The massive arch climbed above the chaos of carts and merchants, its carved conquests observing daily disorder. At the Hôtel de Ville, Paris showed its severe civic character. The grand Renaissance facade climbed above the plaza like a monument to control. Yet beneath its carved stonework, the city's heartbeat pounded hard and doubtful. Couriers hurried across the cobblestones with sealed orders, and the sound of arguments drifted from packed halls where traders, officials, and petitioners advanced their cases. Outside, sellers mingled with troublemakers, their voices echoing off the walls as the Seine's bitter wind swept the plaza. Here, authority felt both formal and fragile. On the Pont Neuf, Paris assembled in all its chaotic glory. The broad stone bridge hummed with sellers, performers, barbers, and pickpockets. Horses clattered past aristocrats in bright fabrics, while rumors, pamphlets, and gossip exchanged hands as rapidly as money. Under the bridge's arches, boatmen called out, and river odors rose thick and sharp. It was the city's main junction, noisy, alert, and pulsing, where every moment felt charged with opportunity and betrayal. At the Palais Royal, Paris displayed its refined facade of authority and scheming. Beyond its elegant arcades, nobles exchanged secrets, and the garden provided a rare quiet. Gravel walkways, trimmed vegetation, and flowing fountains. It was grace, stretched over strain. At the Luxembourg Palace, Queen Marie de Medici's magnificence stood separate from the city's noise. The palace rose calm and dignified, overlooking gardens where systematic paths, statues, and colorful flowerbeds softened the atmosphere. Noble families walked among shaped hedges, their quiet movements concealing courtly plots. At Place des Victoires, Paris exhibited its victories in stone. Traders, soldiers, and interested observers moved through the open area, their footsteps muted by the balance surrounding them. It was refinement shaped into assurance, an ordered stillness meant to calm the city's restless character. The round plaza framed the statue of Louis XIV, climbing proud above refined facades that mirrored the king's power. Notre Dame loomed above the Ile de la Cité, its darkened stone capturing the river glow like a serious marker. Bells echoed through the streets and inside. Incense drifted beneath arched shadows, where worshippers whispered their dreams and worries. At the city's western boundary, the Tuileries gardens stretched in systematic rows of trees and gravel paths, offering Parisians a rare sweep of peace. Beyond them stood the Porte de la Conférence, where the city thinned into open terrain, and the river breeze carried dust and noble gossip together. At Port Saint-Bernard, the city opened to the river's harsher flows. Barges crowded in with wheat and timber, their crews calling over the rumble of carts heading for the trading areas. The old gate stood weathered but watchful, marking a boundary where Paris's packed streets met the harder work of the Seine. Parisians lived tightly packed, thousands of families stacked in tall, crowded buildings that leaned over narrow streets. The city swelled past 500,000 people, craftsmen, clerks, servants, and merchants moving through a constant press of noise and work, privacy scarce, and the city's rhythm felt in every stairwell and courtyard. The port of Paris filled church steps and bridge corners, wrapped in rags against the city's damp winds. Beggars pleaded for coins or bread, children following beside them with empty eyes. Among markets and palaces, their presence was steady, a quiet reminder of hunger woven into the daily existence of the capital. Winters in 17th century Paris bit sharper than today. The Seine often freezing solid. Parisians flocked onto the ice with skates, sleds, and improvised stalls, turning the frozen river into a bustling winter market, cold, bright, and briefly joyful. A 17th century Parisian pastry maker worked among warm ovens, and the sweet aroma of sugar and butter. Tarts, cookies, and glazed fruits drew crowds to his shop, where nobles and workers alike paused for small luxuries. His craft offered a brief escape, delicate pleasures in a city of noise and hunger. In the Galerie du Palais, booksellers offered fresh pamphlets and forbidden verses, while the fabric merchant's stall shimmered with ribbons and fine cloth. The passage buzzed with gossip, bargaining, and the rustle of ambition. Parisian existence compressed into a single crowded corridor. In 1628, Louis XIII and Cardinal Richelieu ruled in a strained partnership, Richelieu's strategy guiding the king through siege and scheming. Their alliance held the kingdom together by determination alone. Cardinal Mazarin governed with quiet, careful intelligence, steering France through war, rebellion, and uncertain peace. Gentle in speech but firm, he shaped the young Louis XIV's direction. Son of Louis XIII, Louis XIV grew up remembering the disorder that once shook Paris, and he vowed to command the city through magnificence as much as power. As king, he reshaped the capital with sweeping determination, clearing old walls to create broad boulevards, carving the Place des Victoires and Place Vendôme into the city's dense center, and commissioning triumphal arches like Porte Saint-Martin to celebrate royal authority. He founded major institutions, strengthened the armies, and filled Paris with architects, sculptors, and fountain makers who executed his vision of classical beauty. Even as Versailles became his noble residence, Paris remained his public platform, transformed, regulated, and illuminated by his command. Under Louis XIV, the city took on a new character, disciplined, brilliant, and unmistakably shaped by the king who intended it to mirror his greatness. Louis XIV's family assembled around him in a constellation of duty and ambition. The Dauphin carried the weight of inheritance, groomed from birth to inherit a throne he would never claim. His brothers were positioned for service and alliance, each assigned a role in strengthening the realm through marriage or military command. The royal women, daughters, nieces, and Madame de Maintenon wielded calm strategic influence within the court, shaping policy through whispered counsel and carefully arranged unions. Together they formed a controlled dynasty, bound by blood and the king's unyielding expectations. By the late 17th century, the Tuileries Gardens had been reshaped by Louis XIV and Le Nôtre into sweeping geometric precision. Broad walkways stretched beneath perfectly aligned rows of trees, while clipped hedges formed living walls of green symmetry. Exact parterres displayed patterns of flowers and gravel that reflected the king's vision of absolute order. Parisians strolled through this landscape of royal balance, finding brief respite from the city's chaos. In these controlled spaces, fountains murmured at calculated intervals, their water dancing to an engineered rhythm. It was nature subdued and perfected, every branch and pathway declaring the monarch's dominion over wilderness itself. Calm, measured, and flawlessly arranged. That's all for this reconstruction of 17th century Paris. Subscribe for more journeys into the past.